Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vega Insights. With me today is Scott Pohlkamp. Scott is a co-founder of All-American Teleradiology and its CEO since its inception. He's an industry veteran in the field of teleradiology, having previously launched 2 successful national teleradiology practices. He has worked with hospital-based radiology practices and imaging centers in highly competitive markets and is well-versed on the challenges they face. He understands and applies best practices of running a teleradiology operation through his nearly 25 years of experience in radiology practice management for organizations including Doctors Hill and Thomas, University Radiologists, National Diagnostic Imaging, and as a founding employee at Franklin and Seidelmann. Scott, it's great to have you today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Luke.
All right. So, Scott, let's kick this off with just a little bit of a background on your company, All-American Teleradiology. Can you tell me a little bit about their technical infrastructure and the systems they have in place today?
Sure. We founded the company 13 years ago. A lot of water under the bridge in those 13 years from an IT perspective and the acceptance of teleradiology. We use a cloud-based version of Ramsoft. We started with a cloud-based version of Ramsoft, and that at the time, we were definitely in the minority back in 2012, 2013, but more and more practices have moved over to cloud-based solutions, which works better for us, and I think a lot of people have that same opinion. We are in the process of incorporating AI into our practice, which we think is going to be a vital role for radiology and healthcare in general moving forward in the future. And as over the period of years, we've grown quite a bit, starting with virtually nothing and scaling our company up to a mid-sized teleradiology firm.
Right. Sounds like you were kind of one of the early adopters of cloud-based PACS, and you've been doing that for a long time. And now, shifting your focus to AI and trying to be an adopter there with some of the new and emerging AI technologies. So we're going to talk more about that. Uh, then just from a business perspective, tell me a little bit about your business, some of the challenges you're facing from a business perspective. I'm sure some of those challenges many of the people watching can relate to. So yeah, let's hear about that.
There's always no shortage of challenges in teleradiology and radiology in general. We've gone through a number of shifts just in these 13 years, from an overabundance of radiologists to shortages and back and forth, which isn't uncommon, by the way, in the history of radiology. But we all knew a large shortage was upcoming with baby boomers hitting retirement age and having to deal with that. So that has been a challenge now as we all face a shortage of radiologists. And those problems are actually presenting some interesting solutions at the same time. Also, we scaled back our operations about 6 or 8 years ago and got out of the nighttime business. We felt like looking on the horizon with the demographics of radiologists and our patients and a lot of retirements looming. We thought it would be difficult to find coverage to provide at nights and over weekends. So we scaled back to mostly a daytime teleradiology service at this point.
Right. Okay. So sounds like you're experiencing the same radiologist shortage as a lot of teleradiology practices and radiology groups are facing, and you're looking at AI as a possible solution to help with that problem. Tell me about any pilots or experiences that you've already started.
Well, first of all, getting back to the challenges of recruiting in radiology right now, we do have an advantage in the fact that we are teleradiology and we're not recruiting for nights and weekends. So while recruiting is a bit of a challenge in some situations, we've been pretty successful in our recruiting efforts. I know a lot of the hospital-based practices are in a much different boat. Still, nonetheless, it is short. And it's incumbent upon all of us with the shortage of radiologists to maximize the utilization of each one of our radiologists. And so that's really where AI comes in, and this whole effort as an industry, and not just with AI. I mean, we've seen this coming for a while in radiology, but everyone in the industry as a whole doing what they can to best utilize the assets that we have.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I mean, with your business model of more of a daytime operation, that's got to be attractive to a lot of prospective radiologists looking for a new home. But even with that, you're saying it's still a difficult landscape to navigate right now. So, I think having certain technologies that can help your radiologist be more efficient, be more comfortable is a feature that can attract better resources to your company. Tell me a little bit about your experience so far with AI in general. Has it been a positive one?
So we're pretty early on in terms of adopting it. A good number of our radiologists have been using it elsewhere and have had, for the most part, very positive experiences in terms of operating more efficiently and being able to read faster. So we're taking a really good look at it right now, and it appears as though where this is really going to be helpful to radiologists is being able to dictate a little more casually. When I say that, AI is able to pick up a lot of what the verbiage that would be used in templates and intelligently lays that into the report and allows the radiologist to spend more time, I think, clinically reviewing a study as opposed to handling some of the administrative chores that not only come with dictating and editing a case, but also just some of the manual processes that are incumbent with any radiologist working within a PACS.
Right. So there's so many different types of AI solutions out there. You've got diagnostic imaging AI solutions like inference that's running on the images. You got AI powered work lists. But it sounds like where you've seen a lot of the benefits so far has been on the reporting side, right? And the
Yeah,
tools
I
that
mean,
are using
we're
AI there.
seeing that, but honestly, where the first place that we've really seen a dramatic change, is in the MRI suite. We read for a whole bunch of MRI scanners all across the country. I'll give you an example. We read for an orthopedic group in Florida that it's a very busy group, and they probably have enough patients for 1.5 MRI scanners. Well, as you know, the cost to build out a new high field MRI, it's very expensive. Reimbursement in Florida isn't particularly good, so it would be a very costly venture. But they incorporated AI into their MR program and cut down their scanning time 35 to 40%, which allowed them to, rather than add another MR scanner and the additional cost with it, they can scan all of their patients on one scanner, which makes a huge amount of difference in terms of being able to deliver healthcare.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's just so many ways to utilize AI, and you really have to look at your entire workflow from start to finish, depending on your practice type, and determine if there are ways that AI can help provide a value to you. Now, as a radiology group, I mean, it's great for that imaging facility that they saved some money and didn't have to buy another MRI machine or something. But as a radiology practice, you're all about making sure your radiologists have what they need to read their exams efficiently and accurately, right? And so, where have you been seeing some efficiency gains in some of the AI pilots or implementations you've done so far?
So I think it's important to understand and have the context of where we came from. Most people that might be watching or listening to this probably recall the days when traditional radiologists, most of which were hospital based and not working out of their living rooms or in their Florida home in teleradiology, were doing this at a hospital. And we're dictating into microphones or into phones to a transcription service. And that was the model really until starting in the early 2000s when everything started going digital and we had the ability to begin using voice recognition, which in the beginning seemed like just a tremendous idea because it was becoming harder and harder to find quality transcriptionists, number one. Number two, everyone was excited about the cost savings and not having to employ or use a transcription company. But a negative aspect of that was radiologists editing their own reports, which can be lengthy, can be a lengthy process and a little bit bulky in terms of trying at the time before we had the templates that we have today, grammatically and stylistically having to edit the reports. And as you know, it's also, it's not ideal to have a person editing their own writing. I know as a writer, it's much more effective if someone else is editing what I have to write rather than me.
Right.
So you really ended up losing a lot of efficiency initially when we went to voice recognition. So this move to AI is really it's the biggest move we've seen in terms of dictating studies going back to the early 2000s with voice recognition, except for the fact that this is really going to be the game changer I think that everyone was hoping VR would be, because of the lack of administrative work that needs to be done or clinical work by the radiologist in dictating and managing their studies.
Yeah, that's an amazing perspective. And, without having somebody that's been there since the inception of VR, it's hard to get that perspective. But it makes a lot of sense that we're now finally reaping the benefits of VR when coupled with AI to truly make the radiologist as efficient as possible creating those reports. Let's dig in a little bit. So, what is it about AI powered reporting that actually makes a difference? Can you speak to anything specifically that you've seen or heard from your radiologist that actually makes a difference for them?
Well, they spend less time dictating. When you can cut your reporting in a given day with the same number of studies, 25 to 30%, it either gives you more time to perhaps spend with your family, or maybe you spend a little bit more time reviewing the studies as well. And maybe you don't feel so hurried. With the shortage of radiologists that we have, it's especially difficult in a hospital clinical setting with busy ER departments and stacks and stacks and stacks of CTs from the ER department, and all of the pressure to roll through 1,800, 2,500 images from a CT fast in order to get to the next patient. I'm hoping that this technology gives radiologists some breathing room so they can take a little more time and not feel so pressured, which I think will also help out with burnout. There are some people that might say, well, AI will give radiologists 30% more capacity, so we'll just fill that capacity. I'm not I'm not a person that is a big believer of that. I think if you do that, I think you're just going to create more burnout. You also expose the radiologist to 30% more from a med mal standpoint, reading that many more studies. And we really don't know in the long run what it would mean for radiologists to sign off and read 25 to 30% more reports. But based on my experience in radiology for many years, I'm very confident that it would lead to a high degree of burnout, which is exactly what we don't want right now with the
Right.
concerning shortage of radiologists.
Right. But the 20 to 30% efficiency gain is huge. And, what you do with that efficiency gain, I guess, is up to you. But what is it about the AI powered reporting that actually gets you the to 30%? So you mentioned, well, you spend less time dictating. Um, there may be some out there that have never used AI powered reporting and don't know, what that means or how you actually get the efficiency gain. Now, in a previous episode, we did a session with MDAI, and for the watchers out there, you can look up that video on our YouTube channel and see MD.ai, um, how it works and how you can save time reporting. But explain to us, how does it result in less time dictating based on your experience?
The program that we're using right now, which it's a platform made from MDAI, allows the radiologist to report any positives, but it will default and list all of the negatives, the no findings in the report, and then intelligently drop down the important findings to the impression. So it's a minimal dictating effort by the radiologist compared to older models of voice recognition.
Right. So, in the traditional way of using voice recognition, you're going to open up a study. Some organizations have it fine tuned where the template comes up automatically. Others I've seen kind of starts them with a blank slate and they bring in the template they want. But you're spending a lot of time navigating around through that template. So, if I just
Correct.
have a single finding, something's wrong with the spleen, I got to get down into the spleen section. And, that takes time to navigate around through there. And then something in my template might not make sense that was in there because of this abnormal finding. So I got to remove that. And then I have to repeat the impression, all the findings from the finding section down in the impression. So there's a couple of time savings now with the AI powered reporting from what I'm hearing. So one you mentioned is instead of navigating through a template, you're just speaking out the findings and then
Correct.
letting the AI do the
It's
transcribing.
intelligently placing any positive findings into the right anatomical section of the report instead of having to scroll through and do everything that you need to do when you're dictating into a template like that, and you have a positive finding, and you're trying to place it in there just right.
Yeah. Yeah, placing the findings and actually even before you um, AI can help with the template selection. So, like MDAI, I know has the ability to use the context of the study that you've opened. It knows the study description, knows the procedure codes, knows the body part, and it uses AI to select the correct template out of all the available ones so that when you say your findings, it's choosing the right template to incorporate those findings into automatically. So that right there is a time saving, to selecting the right template. And then, yeah, just automatically getting those words into the right spot is a big time savings. And then again, auto generating the impression is another one. Yeah, multiple ways there you can see some efficiency gain from
The
a
and the
technical.
big headline of all of this is the radiologist spends more time being a radiologist and less time being a clerical assistant, and that's really what we want here, and it's incumbent upon the entire industry is to better utilize our radiologist assets.
That's huge. Yep. And just it's got to be frustrating for them when they're spending, so much time out of their day doing administrative tasks, moving things around in a template and reviewing and editing their templates. And I've even, I'm excited about some of the more advanced functionality that's now coming out of solutions like MDAI, where um, the AI can, if you incorporate a guideline bookmark into your template, basically, AI can say, "Oh, look at this. He found a lesion on the thyroid, and it matches this ACR guideline
Mhm.
for thyroid, and it, lays out the appropriate guideline right there into the report." That's something that saves the radiologist so much time from having to look up those guidelines, copy and paste and everything. Um, and there's a lot of advanced innovations happening with incorporating DICOM SR measurements from ultrasound studies right into the report, using AI to make sense of all of that um, cryptic type of data. From a human perspective, it's pretty cryptic to look at one of those DICOM SR objects, but from a computer standpoint, that's what they're built for, right? And so they can pull a lot of the measurement data and stuff right out of the DICOM SR object and get that into the report, and that's an efficiency gain on multiple levels, right? So um, we see technologists with such a convoluted workflow these days, writing, taking the measurements on the machine and then writing those measurements down on paper. Some of them are even then taking those measurements again and putting them into information systems or preliminary reports of some kind. And then the radiologists are often required to repeat those measurements into the report. And so if we can solve that problem for any type of modality that generates DICOM SR objects, um, there's really some awesome efficiency gains that I see from a
Right,
technical.
the fewer opportunities for human intervention, the better when it comes to typing any demographic information, numbers when it comes to, ultrasound, or as an example, my daughter was at the Cleveland Clinic for a time, and she had 6 or 7 different name aliases in their electronic medical record system. I think AI will clean up a lot of that, which will be a big help. I also think that there are some very obvious, applications of AI in credentialing and some of the other more clerical and archaic forms of administrative work that we do in radiology.
Yeah. Well, and tell me about the headaches that your organization experiences today. Uh, Due to the fact that you're having to try to hire more radiologists to keep up with the demand, all of the administrative burden that goes into interviewing and credentialing and all that, that's not my expertise. But could you speak to, if you can reduce your administrative burden in that area, what that means for your practice?
It means a lot for our practice and for everyone. If you think back 25 years ago, at a time when most hospitals were staffed with hospital-based radiologists that were either a employee of the radiologist or they were part of a private practice that had one or several hospital contracts in the area. Those radiologists in those radiology groups maybe had, depending on the size of the healthcare system, 5 to 10, or maybe they were credentialed at 5 to 10 hospitals, and that was it. Maybe had a state license, maybe a couple state licenses if they were on a river town between 2 states or had some other, extenuating circumstances. But now fast forward 25 years, and you'll have radiologists with 20 to 30 licenses that may have privileges at 30 hospitals in addition to outpatient centers. So there's a tremendous amount of movement with credentialing and licensing, which is creating ungodly amounts of paperwork that's moving back and forth and has a slowing effect on all of these processes. And you're working in an environment with the shortage of radiologists where you want to quickly to address staffing changes. And it's difficult to do, and I truly believe that AI is going to greatly shorten that time period so that we can get a radiologist more quickly credentialed at hospitals, imaging centers, and get them licensed in the States a lot faster as well. Radiology, as far as we've come in 25 years, there's still aspects of it that are like moving a very large aircraft carrier. It's a slow-moving process, and out of date for the kind of nimble, quick radiology services that we need right now.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a real nightmare to have a national teleradiology practice where, first of all of the paperwork that goes into credentialing and licensing all of these radiologists. And does it also trickle down to the insurance payer level, or can once you're licensed at the state level, can you just read all studies from that state, or does it matter what
No,
insurance?
you have to get credentialed with the insurance carriers and Medicare
Yeah,
and
so
Medicaid.
there's so many levels
There's
of that, and so just that paperwork alone is such a headache. But then I would imagine trying to orchestrate the workflow so that the right radiologists read the right studies has also got to be a challenge. If new radiologists are still, maybe they got their Tennessee license and they're still waiting on Kentucky or whatever, it just seems like, getting the right studies to the right radiologists could be a major challenge. And that's another area where we are seeing a lot of innovation with AI, you know, being able to orchestrate workflows automatically and remove a lot of the manual labor that's involved in orchestrating those workflows. So these solutions like NewView that we're partners with here at Vega, we we see a lot of opportunities to help some organizations in those ways. So um, yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about the financial side of all of this. We talked in pretty good length there about, the technical efficiency gains and how it can actually save your radiologist time and your administrator's time. From a business perspective, what do you see AI actually doing for practices in general from a financial perspective?
I don't know in the long run if it's a money saver or not, to be honest with you, but, here's where I think it really shines and makes a tremendous difference. If you look at our workforce right now, we are working with fewer and fewer workers that are available, and we're dealing with all of these baby boomers who are retiring, getting older, and whose utilization rates are getting higher and higher. I don't think you have to look at it as this is going to be a great cost savings measure, especially from the administrative and clerical end. But what it is going to do is allow you to keep up with the work by not replacing people as they leave in a really short job market. So, in a ways, it probably overstating it a little bit, but it seems like AI is arriving just in time to deal with this very demographically challenged time that we have here in the United States with the baby boomers.
Yeah. Yeah, keeping up with that workload, everybody's looking for answers, and, I would encourage everyone to try it. A lot of these companies offer free trials or ways for you to pilot it at a low cost. And tell me about measuring, trying to actually measure to know if it actually is an efficiency gain or not. Have you done anything at All American that, lets you kind of demonstrate to the group the actual gain?
We're gonna do a pilot project so that we can put some metrics on that to determine within a reasonable range what the time savings is going to be for a radiologist that works for our group. We're trying more and more to be as competitive as possible in this market to attract radiologists and teleradiologists, and the way to do that is to make it as appealing as possible by making it a very flexible and comfortable work environment. So those are the kind of metrics that we'll look to use in the future in our recruiting efforts.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Um, it's also encouraging to hear AI being adopted, not just at the large academic medical centers and the largest radiology groups in the country, but also the mid-size or smaller groups are able to do this. Um, what do you think has been the enabler there for you, kind of as a mid-sized teleradiology company, to be able to pilot this and implement it, maybe without some of the resources that you might have at it's like a large academic medical center?
Well, I mean, that's a good point, and, especially, bringing up large academic medical centers who, from a funding standpoint, usually have the resources to bring in all kinds of technology to test, um, and, in an environment that is not available for people outside that environment. I remember when I was at university hospitals, we had a 7 Tesla magnet, and virtually no one at the time had a 7 Tesla magnet. I think we were using it to scan, small animals at the time in a research environment, but, you just didn't see a whole lot of that. So you would expect if you would have told me 2 years ago that, we would be implementing on the verge of implementing I probably would have said it's likely going to be too expensive for us to consider, but the price points are more affordable than people realize, and I think that that's the model that everyone's gonna go to, even in the smaller hospitals, rural hospitals, which probably need it more than anyone given their circumstances right now. So, I don't think it's a cure-all for everyone, as I said before, AI, but I do think it's an enormous game changer in the field of radiology and probably the most important innovation that we've had, in my lifetime.
Wow, yeah, that's great perspective. Um, So, I mean, just to kind of summarize here, Scott is speaking from the perspective of a mid-sized teleradiology group. They're using a cloud PACS, and so they don't have a very big infrastructure footprint that they're responsible for. They're able to successfully implement some, at least pilot some AI solutions that they feel are making an impact for them. So I would just like to encourage everyone, no matter your size, large or small, to take a look at every piece of your workflow and determine if AI can make a difference there. And as Scott was mentioning, um, pilot it out like they're doing and try to measure the efficiency gains and do that before you make the big investment. But
Yeah,
what we're
we're looking
seeing.
forward
Oh,
to we're looking forward to, going to RSNA this year and looking at all the latest and greatest innovations, and I know there's some innovations with AI and billing as well that might be able to shorten the time for reimbursement. So there's a whole range of applications, under that are being developed as we speak, and, I'm sure the conversation we have in 2 years from now will be significantly different than the one we have today.
yeah, it's an exciting time. Exciting to be at RSNA. I'm excited to be able to demonstrate a lot of this AI technology at our booth at RSNA, and there's going to be many others
Sounds
that'll
like that's
have
an
their
invitation.
absolutely. It's an invitation, so we're excited to welcome anyone to our booth at RSNA, and we'll be demonstrating what I feel will be the best of the best for AI workflow-based solutions. Um, and some of the stuff that we talked about on the episode today will be available for everyone to try out. So come see us, and I just want to send out a special thanks to Scott for sharing his perspectives and letting us into his world a little bit. I think it's been fantastic and a learning opportunity for me, and hopefully many others found it interesting. Scott, thank you again, and we want to thank everybody for watching. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your time. Much appreciated. See you at RSNA.